Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to when America was nuked by Britain twice. I had no clue this ever happened. When did we nuke America and why? What? It must have been some kind of experiment, or maybe it were miniature weapons, really small ones that had no real damaging effect. I can't think of why or when, because I'm sure I would have heard of this. So this video here, I'm sure I'm going to find it really interesting to watch. So let's do it. That is a beautiful plane. Look at that thing. RAF, right?
In the 1960s, Great Britain nuked the United States not once, but twice.
What?
Fortunately for all concerned, the attacks were only training exercises, but so embarrassing were these attacks that they were hidden from the American public for about 50 years, as well as being strenuously denied to the American press for decades. As far as America was concerned, its defenses were 99% effective, but in simulated attacks, Royal Air Force bombers managed to penetrate US airspace to launch nuclear attacks on New York City and several other important urban centers. Before I tell you how, a word from our sponsor. How did the British manage to penetrate the world's most heavily defended airspace? The answer is surprisingly simple and consists of two words: Avro Vulcan.
This is this plane is one of my favorites. Just look at the wingspan of it relative to the oh god, what is it called? The trunk of the thing. What is that word? Fuselage. That's what I'm thinking of.
The Vulcan first flew in 1952. The team that created it, led by Roy Chadwick, who had designed the famous Lancaster heavy bomber of World War II. A jet-powered, tailless, delta-wing, high-altitude strategic bomber, the Vulcan was the backbone of Britain's nuclear airborne deterrent during most of the Cold War, serving from
Look at the camo on it, man. That paint job.
1956 until retirement in 1984. This is the story of Exercise Sky Shield, when Britain nuked its closest ally, exposing how the Soviet Union could have done the same for real. In 1960, the United States decided to run the largest test of its air defenses in history. Exercise Sky Shield 1 occurred on the 10th of September 1960, and all commercial air traffic over the US and Canada was grounded, amounting to 1,000 US commercial flights.
Wow, all traffic grounded. A lot of money was lost that day.
And 700 general aviation aircraft, plus a further 31 foreign flights due to land in North America. The US Strategic Air Command would launch B-52 Stratofortresses and B-47 Stratojets to simulate a massive Soviet nuclear bomber force approaching North America from north and south. 360 US interceptor aircraft stood ready to defeat these enemy aircraft, which numbered 310. Among those 310 aircraft were 8 Royal Air Force Vulcan B-2 nuclear bombers. A flight of 4 flew from Scotland, while the other 4 launched from the British territory of Bermuda in the Atlantic Ocean. The American plan was to detect these enemy bombers by radar and other early warning systems. Then they would be intercepted and destroyed in simulated attacks by US jet fighters and missile batteries. The attacking bombers split their attacks between high and low altitude. The defending fighters did very well against the Stratojets and Stratofortresses, intercepting many of them, but the Vulcans proved more elusive opponents. The Vulcan flew at the highest altitude of the simulated Soviet bombers.
So the higher the altitude, is that the smaller the cross-section on radar? Is that how it works? because I believe the B-2 and the SR-72 both flew at really high altitudes. I think like 85,000 feet. And those are two of the, stealthiest aircraft ever made.
Cruising at 56,000 feet. One was successfully intercepted at this altitude over Goose Bay, Labrador, by a United States Air Force F-101 Voodoo. But the other 7 Vulcans all managed to penetrate American airspace to launch simulated bombing attacks on US cities. They then turned around and landed at Stephenville, Newfoundland. The question was, how had the Vulcan managed it? The answer was their highly advanced electronic countermeasures systems and the Vulcan's amazing maneuverability. For example, the flight of 4 aircraft that approached from Bermuda were successful because 3 of them put up a wall of electronic interference that prevented interception, while the 4th Vulcan carried out a simulated nuclear strike. This was all rather embarrassing for Strategic Air Command, which quickly buried all stories about British bombers having nuked US targets.
Yeah, you can imagine the public reaction to that. You'd be thinking, what? Why are we spending so much of our money? Why is our military budget so huge if we can't defend ourselves from potential nuclear attack? Yeah. To be honest, they probably did the right thing in burying this story for a little while.
And confidently assured the American public that US air defenses were, as I said, 99% effective. However, the following year, the Americans invited the RAF to take part in Exercise Sky Shield 2. Perhaps the USAF was determined to show that the Vulcan's previous success was only a fluke, a one-time only event.
Did we do it again? Did we?
Sky Shield 2, which occurred on the 14th of August 1961, was an even bigger event than the first one. It caused 2,900 US and Canadian flights to be grounded, affecting 125,000 commercial passengers. During the exercise, 125 US and British bombers would be pitted against 1,800 fighters and 250 missile sites, and over 200,000 Air Force personnel from the US and Canada.
Coming up on 16 and a half seconds. Now, continuing.
Wow, is this footage from the actual exercise? I love seeing old footage like this.
Yeah, but I'm straight. Ready, now. 3 trip hard, gear. Come up. 6 up, standing by front.
Again, 8 Vulcan B-2s participated, split again into 2 flights. One attacking on the northern route from RAF Lossiemouth in Scotland via Canada, and the other 4 aircraft on a southerly route from Kindley Air Force Base, Bermuda. The B-47 Stratojets simulated low-level Soviet bombers. The B-52s would attack between 35,000 and 42,000 feet, while the Vulcans again operated at the highest altitude, 56,000 feet.
Man, I wonder where did we manage to get through the defenses again? That would be hilarious if we did.
At the massive NORAD, or North American Air Defense Bunker at Colorado Springs, the US top brass was joined by the RAF's Air Marshal Sir Kenneth Cross of Bomber Command and Sir Wallace Kyle, Chief of the RAF Technical Training Command, to monitor the exercise. Just before 2 p.m, US interceptors pounced on the B-52s, approaching at the mid to high altitude level. The Vulcans also came in from the north, and again, due to the Vulcans' high-tech jamming equipment, only one was shot down by an F-101 fighter.
We got through again.
Large numbers of US fighters were scrambled, But they concentrated almost exclusively on the B-52s. When the Vulcans came over, the interceptors did not have sufficient fuel remaining to climb to 56,000 feet plus and engage them.
So getting to a high altitude is a huge advantage, having that capability and to be able to cruise there and stay there for prolonged periods of time.
The surviving 3 Vulcans conducted their attacks successfully, turned around and landed at Stephenville, Newfoundland. The southern attack force of 4 Vulcans from Bermuda reached a position 50 miles off the US coast before fighters were scrambled to intercept. Again, 3 of the Vulcans unleashed an electronic jamming screen that kept the attacking F-102 Delta daggers busy, while the 4th aircraft crept round to the north and sneaked through. This Vulcan proceeded to land at Plattsburgh Air Force Base in New York. If this had been a real attack, New York City could have been reduced to a smoking, irradiated hole in the ground.
Man, this thing is just an amazing plane. I need to see what we replaced it with, because the narrator said that it's been retired. It looks fantastic though, doesn't it?
Many of the Stratojets and Stratofortresses had also managed to evade interception and launch simulated nuclear attacks, but not at the kind of success rate that the Vulcans enjoyed. In 2 massive exercises of 8 Vulcans that attacked on each occasion, 7 had got through to their targets, an astounding survival rate against the huge might of the US air defenses.
Absolutely, because let's say each one goes after a different city. You could have New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston. You could have all these. Imagine 7 major US cities getting nuked at the same time. Man, that would be terrible. Could you imagine that?
The Vulcans showed that with the right aircraft, America could be laid wide open to a nation-ending assault, something which the Soviet Union would have been very interested in. Fortunately for all concerned, the relationship between Britain and the United States never changed from special to decidedly antagonistic, and the Vulcans never came in anger. The American government also tried to make damn sure that nobody ever found out about the Vulcans nuking American cities. The US Air Force was very quick to deny rumors that RAF planes had once again successfully penetrated US airspace. In fact, the US government went so far as to classify all references to Vulcans included in the Sky Shield exercises. After all, if the RAF could practice nuke New York City, Washington, D.C., and even Chicago, the Soviets could do the same, if they could develop an aircraft as good as the Vulcan. As far as Strategic Air Command was concerned, the Vulcan episodes had never happened, and the US was well protected, and that protection, as I said, 99% effective. The Vulcans' successful attacks on America were only fully declassified in 1997, long after the Vulcan had left British service.
And obviously, in that time, 3 decades, the US air defenses have vastly improved, vastly improved. Very, very interesting indeed.
Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe.
Super interesting. Really, really interesting indeed. I had no clue that this happened, and it makes sense because it was classified for so long that only people who were really in the know would have went to, find these files once they'd been declassified. Yeah, I would imagine that the US air defenses have massively improved since this took place. Obviously, the RAF would have upgraded the Vulcan. I'm going to look into what we upgraded it with, what the new aircraft is, because I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. But should a exercise like that take place today, I'm not sure whether the results would be the same. Probably not, but I'd love to see it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.